It's DSP's top 5 worst gaming trends of 2011. Number 3. Shitty fucking games. The biggest stinkers of the year. Let's start off with a game that isn't necessarily a bad game at its core, and the reason being, this was actually a popular game when originally released for the Nintendo Wii. Of course, we're talking about No More Heroes Paradise, which was the HD re-release of the original No More Heroes. Only this time around, it was on the PlayStation 3 using the Sony Move controller. And although it was an option to use the PlayStation gamepad, it was heavily touted and sold as, gee, you should use the Sony Move with this game because it was a motion control game on the Wii, so you should get the full experience by using the Sony Move controls on the PlayStation 3. Well, what an amazing backfire. I mean, the controls, in a lot of cases, for the most simple thing that works properly on the Nintendo Wii, doesn't work with the Sony Move. For example, just recharging your beam katana, which is supposed to be a simple shaking motion of the Move controller, doesn't work properly, which leads to massive problems, especially in really tense combat situations. Then, of course, there's the graphical bugs. There's the difficulty in gameplay in certain areas because the game doesn't actually explain to you what you're supposed to be doing properly. I mean, talk about ruining a game by making a bad port and giving the original a bad name. No More Heroes, Heroes Paradise was just that. Now we can talk about all the Marvel titles released in 2011, and it's almost unbearable to see a gaming studio like Activision, who had previously made exceptional level games like the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games, Spider-Man Web of Shadows, hell, even the last Spider-Man game, Shattered Dimensions, where the gameplay was exceptionally better and longer than this year's iterations of Marvel titles. Both Spider-Man Edge of Time and X-Men Destiny really just went off the rails and made absolutely no sense why these games were so bad. First of all, the games were short as hell, shorter than 6 hours long. How can you sell a retail game in this day and age that's not 6 hours long? In addition, Spider-Man Edge of Time decided to confine Spider-Man completely within a building for the entirety of the game, taking away the freedom aspect of the free-roaming nature of many of the most popular Spider-Man titles today. X-Men Destiny takes the engine of Marvel Ultimate Alliance and waters it down to the point where you feel like just putting the game away and going back to play those previous games. So what were they thinking when they made these horrible fucking games? I have no idea. Oh man, now we're really getting into the shit. Up next, Body Count, a game that was meant to be the spiritual successor to the popular FPS game Black from the mid-2000s. Body Count really just doesn't know what it wants to be. Does it want to be a straight-up FPS game? Does it want to be more of a leveling system like a game such as Bulletstorm from earlier in the year where there's points that accumulate? It doesn't know. And it's pretty easy to tell as soon as you dive into this game that the creators and the people who were the head of this idea actually quit the gaming studio halfway through development. I mean, shitty controls, really hard difficulty spikes, no ability to even zoom down the barrel of a gun in an FPS game, probably one of the most silly graphical engines I've ever seen where all the enemies are either identical clones of each other or are fucking crazy pyramid head monsters. It's just a mishmash, a mess, and to top the icing on the cake, no online play. That's right, this game did not work online at all when it was released for retail. So how many times can you fail in one game? Well, I think they toppled a new record with this one. Or maybe not, because up next we're going to talk about a game that I can't even say is a game. Child of Eden for the Microsoft Kinect, it's the weirdest mishmash of nonsense I've ever seen in my life. It's probably the least amount of content ever sold as a retail game in gaming history. All the game is you wiggling your hands around on the screen, well, not really on the screen, but in front of your Kinect, while the game recognizes the positioning of your hand and automatically blows things up on the screen. There's no reaction time required. All you need to do is go through the stages, memorize, what comes out at what time, and then you move your hands to the beat. And that's it. There's no variety to the gameplay. There's actually only 5 playable stages in the game, and each stage is only roughly 5 minutes long. So you're talking, to beat the entire game, it's really only 25 minutes of gameplay. So how does Child of Eden make up for this? By making you repeatedly beat the same stages over and over and over until you accumulate enough stars to unlock the next stage. It's probably one of the worst gaming models I've ever seen in my life. The fact that some of the gaming media actually gave this game a good review proves they have no fucking clue what they're doing, and they don't understand what a good game is. Sure, the musical beat aspect of the game is interesting, but there's no gameplay. Therefore, it's not a game. Oh boy, but get ready, because none of what we just talked about can prepare you for the epic failure that was Conduit 2. This game attempted to be a hardcore first-person shooter for the Nintendo Wii and pretty much failed on every single level. The graphics were horrendous, and I don't understand how a game like Zelda Skyward Sword could have such beautiful graphics in a 480p video resolution, and then Conduit 2 has these blocky, nasty, pixely textures. Half the time you can't even tell what you're shooting at, and the game itself doesn't care. It doesn't realize that the graphics are bad, so you're going to have insanely large difficulty spikes. You're going to have very sluggish controls that are going to frustrate you to infinity. You're going to have cheap instant deaths. I mean, everything is just wrong. And then just top that off with the stupidest story and the dumbest ending to a game I think I've ever seen in my life. Conduit 2, a humongous, stinky turd that has absolutely not even any sprinkles on top. It's just a disgusting piece of dog duty. I can't believe the game was made like this. I can't believe that it also looks like they think they're actually going to make a Conduit 3 to end the storyline of this game. I say cut your fucking losses and go work on something else, because Okay, so I'm glad I never have to talk about those games again. Coming up next, what the fuck was going on with video game developers in 2011? We'll air all their dirty laundry in the next part of the top 5 worst gaming trends of 2011.